Hey everybody, welcome to Colorbar. I'm Kim Updike, here with Betsy Davis. How you doing, Betsy?
I'm really good.
All right, so I'm excited for our conversation today with Denise Costello.
Same.
I mean, we're going to talk all things brand activation, what's going on in the marketplace, and just dive right into how we're driving engagement.
I know, and Denise and I were talking about this before we kind of in preparation for today, and we both have been in the industry. All of us have been in the industry forever, an industry we love with print. And the fact that we've never met before is crazy.
So you two hadn't met before this?
We had not.
So Luke is the common denominator?
Luke wasn't even the common denominator until we started chatting. Bill Gust, who is a new biz dev for us, one of the first emails I got from him was, "You've got to meet Denise. You have to meet Denise, and she needs to be on Colorbar." And so I was like, "Okay, I'll take your word for it."
Right.
And then to come to find out, Luke said, "There's three women that I adore the most in print, and it's you, Patsy, and Denise is the third." So, yeah. So there you go.
All right.
We're running with a good crowd.
Well, I did notice the boss lady comment in the email, so I didn't know if there is going to be like a changing of the of the crown, so to speak.
Waiting dark. Absolutely.
Yes. So, yes, I guess she and Luke, she was boss lady, he was boss man, and now Denise, I guess, is handing over the boss lady crown. Mm-hmm.
Passing the crown.
Yeah. Well, without further ado, Denise Costello, thank you for being here.
Yes.
And for the Colorbar audience, introduce yourself to everybody else and kind of your background and why we're going to be talking all things brand and brand activations today.
Perfect. Yeah, and again, this always is. This is the scary part because it's going to date me for sure. So I spent 26 years at R.R. Donnelley, and 8 years with SGK. Okay. And what's kind of interesting about this discussion is, I think about brand marketing and sort of how brands have evolved. And I kind of look at it in decades. This is the part that dates me. Is in the 90s, you think about it was mass targeting. It was catalogs in the mail. It was newspaper inserts. It was long run print and broadcast media, all trying to drive to the physical store. Then you get into the 2000s and you've got the internet and online, and all of a sudden you're starting to move more into this sort of digital world. Then the 2010s, everything changed again. Newspapers were dead. Targeting became much more important. And when I came to SGK, so now we're going like 8 years back, it was the focus was still originally primarily on campaigns. And today the focus has really moved into brand activation, meaning kind of always on. So that's a quick recap on my background.
And I love that you just took us down memory lane because I was immediately there with you. Like just
absolutely.
Thinking back about, the things that we used to do. And I forget about when it was all newspaper inserts. Just even talking about that feels like it was an eternity ago, doesn't it?
But I remember having to, in the 90s, I worked for a department store brand in their advertising department. And it was all catalog. And then I remember like every Friday night, you were there to like, Denise, this might make you feel better because we did paste up, right? All the boards to get, right? Okay, there you go. and getting out all of the ads for the news, for all the newspapers to run through, through the weekend for all the sales and lining that up with national promotions and what catalogs and everything got mailed. So just the way we talk about brands now versus, and it doesn't feel that long ago, but I guess it was. So.
Well, what's crazy? I'm going to say two things. One is something the other day came up about the Victoria's Secret catalog. Like, it's just like a random conversation at like the holidays or something. And I'm like, I don't think my nephew, even knows what that means, like, because it used to be funny, like the guys would be like, ooh, I want my mom to get the Victoria's Secret catalog, kind of wink, wink kind of thing. And now nobody even knows what that means anymore.
There's a
which
wink,
is crazy.
wink, and it's like, is there something in your eye?
Yeah, exactly. But what was also interesting, and I want your take on this. We were sitting at dinner the other night, and we were talking about how COVID was almost already 6 years ago, or 6 or 7 years ago, when it first came on the scene. The fact that it was that long ago already seems absolutely mind-boggling to me, because it does still feel like it was yesterday sometimes. Yeah.
It's insane. It is insane.
Insane. So when you talk about the activation, do you think that spurred this last decade of change? Is that what changed us?
That's a great question. I think COVID changed so much. I mean, we could go down a myriad of paths on that one. Right. But I think that, I think a couple things. We were relegated to doing things all online. The physical was a scary place. Think about, you think about foot traffic and all of those things. But I also think that it sort of spurred people wanting to be more into the physical as well after it was over. So it's kind of interesting, but I do think, just fundamentally, I do think that it changed. And I also think that it was, probably part and parcel to brands wanting a deeper relationship with their consumers, and trying to figure out how to bring all of the different channels together to make it more meaningful. So anyway, but it is hard to believe, to your point. I remember being, ironically, in California, and they were shutting down flights. And it was, I was there on a business meeting, and, getting home, and then it was the world shut down.
I was just telling the story the other day that I randomly had taken a solo vacation for myself. And it was like the first week of March of 2020. And I was in St. Thomas, and all of us were sitting around going, what is this COVID thing? Is this even really happening? And then we get home, and literally the whole world shut down 3 days later or something. I'm like, okay, here we are.
I guess it is.
Yeah, I guess it is. But we talked a lot about what you just mentioned last year on Colorbar, and just in conversations with our clients about creating these brand moments, and it's now become this whole experiential moment. And it was because brands want to build these memories almost with their customers, and for the customers to truly feel like they are part of the brand. And is that here to stay for a little bit? Is that still what everybody's kind of out there talking about?
Every client, every brand that I have talked to, yes. I think, to your point, I think brands, they've realized that campaigns spike attention, but activation builds memory and behavior. And I think that's the shift. Campaigns kind of used to be moments in time, and activation's now this living system. It's always on, it's always learning, and it's constantly optimizing. And again, that's, the words I'm speaking are really words I've heard from brands, from our clients.
So talk to us a little bit about that, the experiential journey, maybe. Like when you were saying that it's constantly living and it's constantly optimizing. Talk us through what that looks like from the brand's perspective, from the first activation to it becoming this kind of living, breathing thing. What does that look like?
It's what I think about, it used to be campaigns. There were start and end dates. There would be planned media buys. There's the big reveal, but activation is kind of more adaptable, and it's so much about the pre, the event, and then the post.
Okay.
You're finding that, the pre-engagement, how important that is. The physical moment is still important, but the post-experience relationship, these experiences are now sort of designed to live beyond space, if you will. You think about, like, let's take beauty. Glossier, they move from doing splashy launches to community-driven retail experiences where stores really function as content engines. It's trying to, I think it's trying to involve the consumer along that entire journey, if that makes sense.
One other thing I was thinking about, like this, we talked about things changing from decade to decade, and I feel like we've been using pop-up shop for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Is that still a thing? Is like, what's the next version of pop-up shop?
How does that evolve?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that even make sense? Is that even a valid question to even ask? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess yes. So the pop-ups were, the emphasis was on the physical. Okay. And the social moment was more kind of a one and done. And now I think, again, I'll go back to, I think pop-ups will still be a thing. What we're seeing more though is the pop-ups being part of sort of a bigger experience. There's, as I said before, these experiences, they need them to kind of live beyond space. And I think this is where, like pop-ups, there's a lot more collaborations going on in terms of some of these pop-ups. I think, again, I think pop-ups aren't going to go away. I do think that they will evolve.
Yeah, we had Kat Tisham.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, yes.
She's executive creative director for AMP Agency, and she was talking about an activation that they did for Hey Dude, and they did it at New York Fashion Week. And so it stuck out like a sore thumb, but then like it became this movement kind of, which is exactly kind of your point, that they had this moment in time,
but
then it just continues to live in this kind of in your face, watch out New York Fashion Week, Hey Dudes is here kind of statement. Yep.
Yeah, and a similar example is at the All-Star Weekend in Indianapolis, year before last. The collaboration between Puma and Cheetos and Foot Locker. I mean, it was a moment in time, but the trail on that and the post experience, okay, it continued, and they have really played on that and actually continued it into the next All-Star Weekend.
Wow.
So again, it's interesting how these collaborations, tying them to community, community hubs, community activities. I mean, that's where they can keep these things alive, I think, again, beyond what a campaign would have done.
Yeah. So what does that post-event look like? Is that all digital? Is there still any physical component to that?
Yes, there is. It is mostly digital, but this is where, you'll get into influencer kits. You'll continue to push kind of physical pieces into influencers who then are obviously continuing that momentum. We have seen a huge uptick in influencer marketing. And again, influencer kits, that's become a big thing, whether it's Jordan Childs, whether it's Kylie Jenner. I mean, as I said, that's another thing that we have started to see is again, what's happening at the influencer level to continue the sort of the activation piece.
We've done some really fun influencer kits for Key Eyewear and Lizzo. And we did one with, I think it was Tarte Cosmetics with Sweetie. But, they're super fun. But to be able to now kind of reimagine what the physical print piece looks like, and for it to now be this product moment and an influencer moment. Those have been really fun for us to create. We've started seeing even universities and thinking outside of retail and others leaning into that same concept and almost creating influencer kits for their recruiting efforts and all of this, and making it these moments that get opened and shared on Instagram and online. And yeah, so people are taking that to a whole nother level too.
Yeah, and we're also seeing brands. L'Oreal just opened in Hudson Yards. This entire, I mean, it's all about a content studio, and it's the whole purpose is for them to continue to come up with content and figure out how to take that across all channels. As I said, I mean, content is a huge thing, and they're able to bring in influencers, and they're able to bring in people off the street that use their products. We're seeing some, like I said, just some interesting things that are sort of new and different.
Yeah. One of the things we were talking about earlier was there's a lot that goes into it, from concept to planning and execution and installation. Where do the hangups happen? Where do the if you're a brand and you're thinking about, man, I want to do this, and I want to have this wow moment and something that goes viral and all the things that they want out of it. Having gone through so many of these and helping execute these, what are the gotchas that people need to be thinking about that you were like, God, I wish I would have been in that strategy meeting before they put this on my plate to try to figure out how to execute?
Yeah, that's great.
Like, where do I start?
Exactly.
How long do we have?
I was just going to say, yeah, we might need to extend this. You're right. I mean, typically, it doesn't fall apart usually at the idea stage. When a brand is thinking about what they're going to do, where it starts to fall apart is again, when it comes to execution. Some of the things that we're seeing is, that brands are really, they look at their partners. They look at Sandy or SGK or R.R. Donnelley or whomever. They look at us as brand stewards. And again, and they're relying on us because, as I said, it doesn't normally fail at idea, it fails at execution. And again, having fewer trusted partners, we're definitely seeing, we've definitely seen a move in that direction. Because again, then you've got more of a coordinated effort. And as I said, the final thing on that is, if the brand story isn't clear, no experience is going to save it. So got to be absolutely certain that what they're trying to accomplish is very clear and everybody understands what that is.
Yeah, we've also talked in some of the Colorbar episodes last year about some of these activations have a fairly large budget associated to it. And so when they're planning for that, it's like, how are brands tracking? We talk ROI all the time on these marketing, whether it's direct mail or an activation or, in-store. Is it the number of impressions that they're getting post-event? Is it the impressions that, like, how are they tracking?
Tracking and quantifying success.
That's
I
right.
guess, yeah.
Yes.
In that space.
Yeah, it's that's interesting. Success, I think, is no longer just impressions. It's participation, it's dwell time, and it's repeat engagement. As I said, it's the kind of the I'm going to use the term vanity metrics. I think that brands are starting to see that it's like I said, just if it photographs well or if it looks good on Instagram, that's not enough. And I think it's as I said, it really is no longer necessarily just about impressions. They want repeat engagements. They need activations that push for that repeat and that dwell time and the participation. Yeah, it's, as I said, I mean, Sephora. I mean, Sephora has moved from kind of, they would do what I would say was more campaign type work. And now it's sort of always on in-store storytelling that they're refreshing by category, not by campaign. And again, I think of so many of these brands and they're trying to figure it out. There's nothing perfect about it. But as I said, I think we haven't seen that brands are spending less. We have seen that they're spending it more effectively. So that's kind of the shift that at least we have seen.
One of the things that keeps rattling around in my head is this. We called it phygital.
Oh, yeah.
We talked phygital a lot last year about this combination of physical and digital. And, oftentimes the digital component is the one way to track the metrics. So QR codes and those types of things. And so is that combination of, our physical 2-dimensional print or even 3-dimensional kind of print and incorporating digital into that, what kind of trends are you seeing there that are not even just making the environment more engaging, but also being able to use those to really track the metrics that you were talking about?
Well, the one trend that we see is that, it used to be that it was sort of siloed. If you think about a brand, what digital was doing was different than what in-store was doing, which was different than what, social. I mean, they were very siloed internally.
And we've talked about that too, about everybody being siloed and not necessarily connecting the channels to create a single moment. It was everybody kind of creating their own.
It's doing their own thing, and you're absolutely right. So the days of that's a digital problem or that's an experiential, that's kind of over. And I think the realization is that consumers experience brands holistically. So the brand's going to have to operate that way. And as I said, it's if we could answer that question, perfectly and give everybody what that story is, it make everybody's life a lot easier. It's still a hard thing to get all of that coordination. I think that goes back to, my comment about, we're finding that brands are seeing that fewer partners who can do more. It helps with those connection points. And as I said, I think we're also seeing, that they're cutting back on these kind of one-off builds, siloed agencies, overproducing the experiences with a low, return on investment. And, they're like I said, they're not spending less, they're spending smarter. So they're doing fewer activations, executed better with a clearer purpose.
No, because I liked what you had said earlier, Denise, about when you would ask the question about where sometimes things get hung up, and it was like usually not in the beginning in the ideation or the idea phase, and but not having everybody aligned and not understanding clear purpose. So if you're spending your money, if you have the same money but you're spending it differently, right? So if we're spending it differently to make a bigger impact and have a bigger connection. And how do we best do that? And with our partners that we lean on. So once we leave the idea phase, we've got some sense that we're making it.
Yeah, and we've said partner a few times. Yeah. And Denise, you've talked about the partnerships. Sitting on the brand side, what would be your top things to be looking for in a partner that can help you execute so you don't have all those hangups, that do have that bigger kind of strategic mindset, and can maybe even do more with a few partners versus using 10 and trying to get all those people on the bus is
more like
harder.
A strategic strike.
Yeah. So what would you say to be looking for as they're out searching for people to help them execute?
Again, I mean, certainly certainly teams that understand the entire journey. Again, once you understand their brand and they start to view, we start to view a partner as a brand steward. You're looking for, teams that can show you how to not over customize, okay, and then you can't scale it. Designing, again, partners that are designing without understanding kind of production realities. Again, I think they're just looking for smarter partners who get the entire kind of journey. One of the things that we always heard is, and we've always said to our clients is, if it can't be produced consistently, it's like a prototype. I mean, we're seeing more in terms of partners, partners that can think through how to modular and how to reuse, again, fabrication and things of that nature. I think that's what I think brands are just looking for, smarter partners.
Yeah, you were talking about scaling, and we always, like, my kind of part of the business has always been more on the direct mail and that side of it. And we're always talking about being able to do personalization at scale. And now you're talking doing activations at scale. And even seeing some of the things that you guys did at SGK, where, you're taking a European brand and transferring that into the US market, and what that needs to look like. And then taking that and scaling it across our 50 states. There's a lot that, I mean, my Lord, we're talking about going to an event and trying to figure out how we can do a fairly fun and sophisticated activation of our own. But then we're like, how are me and Patsy going to install that? Like, we don't have an install team, I mean, it's those little things that you don't think about. Like, we have this big vision of what we want to do. And then our team's like, you have to be able to put this up and put it together and take it down. And so a totally different scale of what we're talking about, but I feel it. Yeah.
But we appreciate installation and what it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to be able, again, to reuse it. When you think about a campaign, it used to be kind of a one and done. I mean, now you're looking to design things that can still be unique, but you're not having to completely rebuild every time you're doing something. And you talked about like adaptation and localization, and you're right. You think about most of the brands that we work with, they're global. And localization and again, that's critical, because consumers do expect brands to kind of show up in ways that feel relevant. And you're right, what we do in California is going to be different than what we're going to do on the Champs-Elysees. Those things do vary. And and brands that I think do it well, they don't do it randomly. They localize within a disciplined brand system. And I think that's, as I said, that allows them to scale without really fragmenting the brand.
Yeah. We talk a lot about trying to get us at the table very early in the process. Right when they start having these ideas, the ideation phase starts, we want to be there. But I'm thinking about, you're taking it globally, you're trying to do the localization. What's the time? What are we thinking about? Like, if a brand is like, I'm ready to really do this, is this a year-long process? I know there's the same answer we always give. Well, it depends on what you're wanting to do. We give some high level, but think about some of the things that you've done. Are these year-long type executions that people should be thinking about?
It is typically a year long, but as we all know, we have been called upon to do an execution with 4 weeks. So but I think that goes back to the more integrated the partners are with the brand. To your point, Kim, I mean, if we're in at the beginning stages and we really understand what their goals are, and let's be serious. It's, brands they've got to work, they have to have a strategy. And normally that strategy is a minimum of a year. And often it might be 2 or 3 years. But, they also have to react to the market. But to the point, if we can strategize with them, as partners, as production partners or creative partners or whatever type of partner we are, the further upstream we are with them, we know what doesn't work. We know where the problems are going to occur, and we can help walk them through that. Again, I think, but I would also say that, so many brands, they're not used to necessarily having their partners in up front. I do think that that's becoming a bit more common. And I also think that once you have a trusted relationship, I think it makes it a lot easier.
And I think one of the things that we're seeing too now is people are bringing us in, one, because we're actually becoming an extension of their team.
Yes.
Because they're limited. Like, they're having to pull back their staffing and their teams and cutting and doing all those things. And so fortunately, it's allowing us to be able to come in alongside them and have people on site and be truly an extension of their team. And so it gives us, we're just naturally a part of the conversations. But it's a huge benefit to us because we can, call out those things that sometimes it's better to know what doesn't work than it does to know what does work.
Right. Because you can either work around it, or at least you know what up front. It does kind of sometimes get to a point where you're like, well, we've all signed off on this. So how do we execute it? Whereas, everybody being aligned, up front.
Yep.
And trying to figure out what is the best way to bring this to market to engage that audience is like almost as important as the idea itself.
Completely agree. And you brought on that point. You're right. This is where you can avoid last minute changes. Nobody thinks about the impact of little small executional details. But where I was going to go, Betsy, back to one of the comments that you made, is you're right. What we also have seen, I think about, we've also seen that again, some of these brands, many of them, they're leaning, they're kind of carving down their staff. And I think about what's interesting is I think about one of our bigger studios, or one of SGK's bigger studios, is in Portland. And of course, Nike's in Portland. And, I think about the number of people that were on our team that went to Nike to work at Nike. And then Nike does a workforce reduction. And then then they come back to SGK, which is now Propellus. But then they come back and think about the trust, though, that the brand has with those people. And I'm sure you have seen that as well at Sandy.
Sure.
where people, they come from the brand.
Yes.
So, yeah. And so again, that's something that we have most definitely taken advantage of. And it's also, again, it helps with the trust. It helps with the credibility, all those pieces.
Well, and you've talked a couple of times about being, a brand ambassador,
steward.
brand steward. And so when you have teams that are sitting in their offices and are sitting side by side in their desk, you do just like, you feel like you're one of them. And so there's no better way to become a brand steward than to be right there in the trenches with them every day, in and out, and on their conference calls and in their strategy meetings and in the conference rooms. And yeah.
The best partners don't just execute. They protect the brand. They protect the brand, and the people that manage the brand. And I think, that's what distinguishes the great partners from the good partners.
Yep.
I'm going to totally switch gears here for a minute and kind of go maybe future state a little bit. AI, the conversation nobody can escape. How relevant are those and prominent are those types of conversations when you're talking about brand activation or technology beyond just, the digital,
aspect of it,
digital footprint of like social and those types of things, but to execute and all these other components, what part does that play in this conversation?
AI was something we knew that we absolutely had to get a handle on. And in fact, one of the individuals from our brand experience retail team, we put him over AI, I think 3 years ago now, to really understand kind of how does that influence activation? How does it influence our business just in general? And I think that, AI data technology, are influencing activation mostly by removing friction from execution and personalization. It's not about replacing creativity or human connection. AI, we can do things so much quicker. When I think about as a partner, AI can handle some of the complexity, I think, of activations so that the human part of it can more focus on what's our storytelling, how are we going to connect all of those things. So I don't know if that answered your question exactly, but that's what we're seeing from AI at this point, making the job. Yeah.
That's kind of what everybody's been talking about is to not have the fear of it, to embrace it, to do the more tactical pieces so the teams can focus on the strategy.
And the storytelling.
Focus on the storytelling.
Yeah.
Focus on making it authentic to the brand. Having it be the storytelling moment. And then, again, let AI do those tactical, time-consuming things that are just not worth our brain power sometimes.
Exactly. And again, with AI, it gives us the advantage of speed also. If we, the sphere around AI, I think if we look at AI as almost like another arrow in the quiver or a partner, if we use it in the right way, as I said, there's a lot of advantages to it. Do I or we believe that it's going to take the place of humans? No.
He has become a pretty good friend. He or she, I don't know. I haven't decided who I want mine to be.
Yeah. And on any given day,
yes. Depends on where I'm at. Are you my girlfriend or do I want to beat you? Do I? Yes. Most of the time it's saving me, so it probably wants to beat me.
Yep. It's like, oh, you again. Oh, Lord, it's Betsy.
God, Betsy's back. Oh, yeah, what's this question going to be? Yeah, what's she going to ask us to do today? That's really funny. I'm probably even blushing because it feels so real and honest. So you talked at the very beginning of the conversation of looking back, 90s, the 2000s, the 2000. Okay, so earlier today I said 2031, which kind of freaked me out, but it's here. Put your crystal ball in front of you. What does the next decade look like? What do you think?
Brand experience is kind of moving away from noise or big splashes, and it's really more toward meaning. I think brands are starting to focus less on how loud they can be and on and more on how well they show up across multiple channels, being consistent better execution, clearer systems, and experiences that actually earn trust. I talked earlier about, strategic collaborations. I think we're going to see more of those, bringing, multiple brands together. And it's interesting. I was having a conversation about a very different subject, and we were talking about Ralph Lauren. And if you think about Ralph Lauren, the brand, they have done an outstanding job of storytelling. When you think about their marketing, both in store, online, where across any channel, they've created a story about family and living a good life and those types of things. And I think other brands are starting to kind of get that picture a bit. Somebody asked me in how the conversation started, ironically, was somebody said, if you had to pick one designer, and that's the only designer that you could wear, just one designer, who would you pick? And I said Ralph Lauren.
I'm with you.
I mean,
You were in it earlier today, I think, or yesterday.
Yep.
If I had to think about one word for brand activation in 2026, it would be intentional. I think that brands are becoming more intentional.
Yeah. I have to take you back to that whole Ralph Lauren comment because no, but you know what happened? As soon as you said it, I immediately start seeing the brand. Like I immediately saw somebody on a horse, in a TV ad. I immediately see an actress on the red carpet wearing one of their gowns that just feels very. And then I see myself sitting in Chicago at the Ralph Lauren restaurant and in the store, and I have that exact same feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know I immediately my brain went just like that about that brand, and I saw it in all these different use cases, and it always felt very Ralph. And so that you nailed it. Like I've never thought about it that way, but you nailed it. Yeah.
And I think he does it very well. And to use Denise's word, I think it's very intentional because there is not one detail from the railing in the store to different textures that are in the store or in his restaurant or that are photographed that's, you see online or, or if you get a piece in the mail or something like that. So across all their channels, I just think it's...
the photography, the catalog texture, like all those,
it all supports it, and it's across all channels. So from having a very, I would say, connected channel strategy, I think they've done it well for a long time.
Yeah.
Kim, I completely agree. I mean, again, if I had to pull out one brand, and I knew that this conversation literally happened at lunch 2 days ago, and I was thinking about this conversation, and I thought, if they asked about one brand that really does it well, I think Ralph Lauren nails it, just on multiple levels.
Yeah, that's really good, and I love the intention comment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if the brands that we get to work with, and even us going into those conversations, for us to ask them, what's the intention? What's the purpose?
Mm-hmm.
I think the conversations will go in a very different direction.
I agree.
Versus we're trying to sell this. We're trying to get brand awareness on, let's go a little deeper than just that.
And that's really what they're hoping connects them to their consumer, is that purpose or that intention. So it's really, that's kind of like at the root of, it may be where we're starting, but it's really what is going to carry them through to make those moments and have those extended post moments that we talked about in the beginning. But I think intention and understanding that and asking that up front also just makes you understand how your part, whatever part as a partner you play, really can be supportive.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And I will say have your teams ask that question, because what is interesting when we have asked that question sitting in front of brand owners, you watch many times they'll pause. Like it's not like they're just going to spit it out. It's almost like, okay, what
is our intention?
Does anybody have that creative brief?
No, but I mean, that's what I was just saying. I bet you ask it, I could see some pivoting happening after you ask that question.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if you've got 3 people in the room. I mean, I was on a conference call with a beauty brand who represents a major influencer, and the influencer's on the call, and the beauty brand's on the call, and you could see a difference in how one was going to answer versus how the other was going to answer. So it's just interesting.
Yeah. Talk about friction. There you go.
There you go. There's a little friction. It's like,
exactly.
And then with kids, we were looking for alignment.
Yeah, exactly.
Do we have an aligned attention here and tension here?
That's right. That's right. Well, we as Sandy, again, love being involved, sooner than later and things like that. And it's also really fun to just see it come to life. When you think about something that was 2 years in the making, and to be that partner that can have a seat at the table to help bring those things to life. There's just something really rewarding about what we do that get to see brands execute that way. And to think back about how we as printers have been a part of that evolution of brands and brands telling their stories and how that's changed. I think that's been the most fun part of this conversation today, is just thinking about us being on that journey with the brands. Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Like I said, we went from press okays to sitting in the manufacturing plant, to now we get to go to, Caitlin Clark's going to introduce her new tennis shoe, and it's fun. I mean, it's what's happening is just it's a lot of fun. And hey, once you've been in print, it runs, ink runs through your veins. Everybody says that, and I think it's true. And I think print still holds obviously it's still a very important component, but it's just been fun to watch that evolution over the decades, for sure.
I'd like to get your thoughts on this, and then we're going to let you go. We were recently having a conversation with a gentleman that's been in the industry for a long time as well, Francis McMahon, and he said, print is life. And so we started talking about how it's truly a part of our day-to-day lives, and so we often take it for granted. And so that's what I'll leave you with, is your thoughts on print is life.
Okay. So having come from R.R. Donnelly,
yes,
we used to make this statement, and you can't verify this with facts. But if you think about R.R. Donnelly of, it's obviously, let's just say 20 years ago, okay? The largest printer in the world, largest printer of Bibles, largest printer of textbooks, all those things.
Yes.
And we used to say that on any given day, everyone in the literate world probably touches something we produced.
Well,
now think about that. Okay. So we produced Bibles in every language. Okay. They were sitting in your hotel room.
Yes.
School books, magazines, catalogs, newspaper inserts. I mean, at the time, Donnelly's now a 162-year-old company. Okay. I mean, and it was crazy. And that sounds like a crazy statement, but truth of the matter is it was probably pretty accurate.
Yeah. I mean, when we were having the conversation.
a phone book, whatever you picked up.
Think about it today, though. We were talking about this, that we walked through an airport, he had just gotten off the train, or there's print everywhere. Like I was walking down the jetway, getting on my United flight, and there's just posters and print and wall coverings and environmental graphics all around me. And that's
Right.
what we do. And so we're still engaging with it every single day. And so when people ask me, when I tell them I'm in print, and they're like, oh, well, you know, what's your plan B? You know, like, oh, print's dying.
I like,
how many things did you touch and read and see and do today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many things did you interact
Yeah.
with?
So print is life. We're here for it. We're excited for it. And I also think in these brand activations, it's still so much a part of creating these really special moments. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And print and packaging and all, I mean, it's still ink on substrate and it's not going away. It is not going away.
I love it.
Well, this has been so fun. Thank you
It's been
for
a pleasure.
sharing your insights and all the wonderful brands you've worked with to bring that to this table. Has been a lot of fun. And I can't wait to see things that we get to execute this year. I can't see where brands continue to take it and the intention that they put into it.
That's right.
Along the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Denise, I hope I get to see you in person sometime soon. And thank you
you
for
will.
Thank you for being on Colorbar with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great to meet you, Denise.
And thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys all for joining Colorbar. Set your intentions as you set out to do your campaigns this year, and we hope to be a part of them. See you all soon.